So today we're going to be looking at the Sanan Shipwreck. Now, Sinan. Whether that's the correct pronunciation, I do not know. So it's the Sanan Shipwreck. And interesting enough, the first stuff that we actually got was actually from the wonderful publication, The Story of Archaeology. So we actually nailed it this week. And this sort of starts it off. And one of the things about this is that the information that we came by was incredibly hard to get hold of, even though it's a world important shipwreck, right? It was very, very difficult to get hold of much information, and in regards to any information, so I couldn't actually find a plan of the vessel that all these artifacts went down on. So it was perhaps in the year 1323, so that's nearly 700 years ago, that the 200-ton keeled sailing ship set off from Ningbo, just south of the present-day Shanghai, heading across the Yellow Sea to the coast of the Korean Peninsula and then southeast to Japan. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll through my images to sort of show you where we're going to go, and wonderful images that I'm showing you now. And I did actually have an image of precisely where this was. So I'm actually trying to work out where that is at this minute. So what I will do is I will get that image for you in the break, because it doesn't actually seem to be in my listing at this minute. So anyway, if you think about China, and you've got going over towards Korea, and you've got south of that, you've got Japan. So basically it's headed across the Yellow Sea, the space between China and Korea, over to the Korean Peninsula, and then southeast to Japan, only to sink off the southwest coast of Korea. And it went down 700 years ago. So it's an amazing shipwreck. And I mentioned, did I not? I mentioned at the beginning about the image that I've got behind me. I mentioned about 3,989,902 coins. Now that's given a calculation that we actually came to using some rudimentary calculations that we come up with. Averages on weights of coins and so on and so on. So we actually came up with that figure. And it's a lot to do with over the years, these different calculations about different things. So the ceramics brought up in fishing nets in 1975 alerted Korean archaeologists, and they are still looking for material from the shipwreck even to this very day today. And in 1976, so 1975, they're examining this. They're examining this shipwreck, 1976, and they're still looking at it today. And the cargo itself, the items that have been recovered, excluding the coins, are around 20,000 objects, just like the one we're looking at in front of us. 20,000 objects. And you will not believe this. You will absolutely not believe what I'm just about to show you. And again, that image is missing. I've got another image which I will no doubt show you after the break. For some reason, some of my images are missing. But we've actually got some of the cargo boxes that these artifacts were actually placed in, that were actually excavated. Now, these are some of the objects. These are some of the 20,000 objects. They look perfect. They look pristine. And when we think about it, these are only some of them. These are only some of the items that were actually recovered. In regards to the vessel, may have actually carried double the amount of artifacts that they've actually recovered to date. So, and lots of those, most of the ones that they've actually recovered are completely intact. They are intact, and there's shelves and shelves of these things. And there is the ship. Basically, they only recovered half of the keeled structure. Only half of it recovered. It was in muds, lying like the Mary Rose. Remember, the Mary Rose is 200 years. There's got to be 200 years, 220 odd years before the Mary Rose goes down over this vessel. So this is 200 years older than the Mary Rose. So they've been excavating over and over again, and just some interesting little snippets before we actually go on, because I've got some nice little articles I'd like to look at. So they've only been able to excavate in the summer months at this site, and they're only able to excavate for 1 hour a day, right at the bottom of the Yellow Sea itself. So they've salvaged half of what you can see, the hull there, with the keel, together with 2,661 pieces of pottery, 729 metal objects including silver and iron ingots, 43 stone objects, and wait for it, wait for the drum roll, and the answer will come, but not yet, 28 tons of Chinese coins. You couldn't make that up. 28 tons of Chinese coins. So this makes it by far one of the biggest coin hoards ever found, and this happened to be out at sea. And also, interestingly enough, and we're going to go off on to a tangent. We always do. This basically, this is basically red sandalwood. Right, now we looked up red sandalwood, and red sandalwood is very, very sought after today. It's a really tightly compacted hardwood. It's basically still there. It's still there in the muds as they excavated. You know, they excavated a few. There it is. That's the sandalwood, and you're looking at this and thinking, is this for real? Because everything looks like it ended up in the water last week. Right, this is the type of stuff that you collect off Barry Island Beach, right? And it's, but this is 700 years old. So shipwreck going down in around 1323. This is 700 years old, and it goes down at the same time, more or less, that Marco Polo is actually wandering around China telling us what's going on. And obviously, as some of you know, Marco Polo then reports that there's a horrible disease in China, and that disease ends up being the Black Death, right? So no Donald Trump stuff there, thank you very much. I knew Roger was just about to jump into that, but anyway. So the Chinese vessel, later dubbed the Sanan Shipwreck, named after the town closest to the discovery, was built for the medieval maritime trade for the porcelain triangle of southeast China to Japan, where Chinese celadons and porcelain were in great demand. Basically, celadons are basically a type of stoneware, right? So you're thinking about green glazed stoneware. Now, there's two types of celadon. There's the green glazed stoneware from...
Carl, you're going very quiet when you move away from the microphone. I can't hear you.
Okay, so what we need to do, we need to try and put my microphone up somehow. So tell me if this is louder. Is this louder?
Yeah, that's better.
You should have said, babe.
I didn't want to interrupt the flow.
Hey, I'll tell you what, right? You're always flowing with me, babe. You can interrupt her anytime. So on that, shut up, Roger. Don't get too excited. I'll tell you now, Roger. Don't get too excited, right? So what basically we looked and we found some really nice bits and pieces, and it would be best. I've got a really nice little article, and actually, what I wanted to show you, which I actually thought I cut and paste, is actually this is what I'm going to show you in front of you now, right? And this stuff is going to blow your minds. You know, you think the Vassars are, well, okay, the Vassar was intact, more or less intact, but But the level of artifacts of this vessel, from what survived, thinking about what survived, right, over 20,000 objects plus quite a lot of coins, right? And what else could there have been on there? So basically, we believe that the material survived on the vessel because it was trapped. It was trapped below deck, probably by softwood timbers. Then the water, then the artifacts get waterlogged. The timber gets waterlogged, but the timber above rots away, and at that point, it's buried in the mud with part of the hull sticking out the water. Sticking out the mud. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking. Sticking out the mud, but the rest of it's in the mud, a bit like the Mary Rose, because half of the Mary Rose survived, and half of this survived. So what I'd like to do is actually show you this image. This blows my mind. Yeah, well, we've got the remains of this, ship, right? And it's what you do find. I don't know if I can sort of enlarge a little bit. It might be. Oh, there we go. Oh wow, look at that. It's great, isn't it? So if we've got that there, right. So what we do find is that they've actually found, still sealed, black glazed jars containing cloves, right, peppercorns, and actually cinnamon, right, actually still sealed after nearly 700 years, still sealed there, right? And look at that there. You can't. That's a celadon dish, right, with chrysanthemums, and you've got a little bit of cloud design there and phoenix designs on them as well. So I think the interpretation is that you've got the chrysanthemum in the middle, you've got the phoenixes north and south there, and I think the cloud designs, the wisps off the clouds, are on the left and the right. And this is the type of thing that, I don't know, my parents would buy in the 1950s. You know, am I on the right sort of, this type of colour, this type of thing would have been quite popular in the 1950s, and then in the arts and crafts in the 1970s. But no, this is actually from the 1300s. And actually most of this is actually older than a shipwreck. Well, it's going to be, because it's been stockpiled and so on. So I love that. I really do. I really like the normal plate design, well, dish plate. And actually, if we go over a little bit over to there, look at that there. When I had to look twice, and with that description, right? Forget about everything else there, right? Display of recovered artifacts with the original packing boxes that contained the ceramics. Now, can you make this up? No, you can't. No, you can't. The artifacts on board this vessel are better preserved than when the Titanic went down over 110 years ago, right? So this vessel went down 600 odd years before the Titanic, right? So it's amazing. You've got like the tea, remember those old tea packing boxes that you used to play with when you were children? Yeah, very sharp tin edges and stuff. So that's the type of thing that we're talking about. So we got the artifacts being recovered in there. Now, the pièce de résistance, where the coins come in, right? Maybe I'm telling you this too early, but maybe I'm not. I will probably repeat this actually, but the coins themselves were actually used for packing. Amazingly enough, right? The coins were deposited in these boxes and around the pottery and used for packing, right? And again, that's an amazing thing. Now, anyone that knows anything about vessels, this is basically referred to this keeled vessel.
Carl,
Turn away from your mic again.
you're turning so far away from your mic, nobody can hear you.
Okay. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on here today. But anyway, I will keep with the mic, okay? So basically, what we're talking about a flat-bottom keeled vessel, if that makes any sense. It didn't to me, but we did actually discuss that today. What's that?
How do they know the shape from that? frame.
Yeah, yeah.
They've got a framework made up there, up to the gunnels. Well, all you've only got the keel basically.
Yeah.
Is it a junk?
Yeah,
Looks like a junk.
Basically
definitely.
is a bit of a junk. So basically what somebody had a joke. Hang on a minute. What's the joke we did today? Hang on a minute. This isn't a lot of good, this vessel. It's a load of old junk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's a load of old junk as well. Anyway, so basically, but back to what we were saying. Let's try and get back to where I was. So what we've got, this is actually made out of compartments, right? So in these compartments, now on usual vessels, what you'd do, you'd have the ballast, which would fill up the lower, which would fill up all these compartments. That would usually be filled up with ballast. But instead of filling it up with ballast, which would put a great deal of pressure on the keel and the other timbers, what they did, they evened out the weight of the ballast within the containers that actually contain the pottery, right? So that's actually quite novel. So then what happened, when the vessel sunk, it went down in a balanced way, right? And then instead of the boxes floating up into the water with their cargo, the boxes themselves remained where they were laid to rest in the vessel as it was at the bottom of the ocean, right? So in other words, it was a well balanced vessel, but for whatever reasons it sank, but the ballast was actually placed into the boxes that actually contained the pottery, right? So this is exactly what they were doing. So this explains why you've got, wait for it, 28 tons of Chinese coins. Now remember, it's a 200-ton keeled sailing ship. So obviously the countermeasures with the ballast are dealt with having 28 tons of Chinese coins to keep the vessel in water instead of bouncing off the surface. And those were actually packed in and around the artifacts that were in those boxes. Again, we've already looked at that image on the right, and there are quite a number of those vases. And what we can actually see is a brass bottle type vase. You can't exactly call it a brass bottle because there's holes in it. So it's more of a brass vase, an incense vase. Again, all of these date from around 700 years ago, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back to where I was, and if we can go back to that image. Are we seeing lots of the pottery, salon vases, and so on? And actually, those there, these are not the salon vases, the ones in the background. Those are actually the storage vessels that we actually just saw earlier on, containing the cinnamon, containing the peppers, containing the clothes, and all those other things, right? So am I right in saying you can see a load of wood and a load of vessels there, Roger? Yeah.
Yes, is that sandalwood? Because it would be scented, I wonder if they cut it now.
Yeah, this is the sandalwood, yeah. Now, basically, basically, Roger, we actually looked up sandalwood, right? So I'm actually going to do it again. Sandalwood. Now, we actually went off on another tangent, right? We had the conversation this morning, and we looked at whether sandals were named after sandalwood, and then we discovered they're not. But sandalwood itself is I've got some little bit of information on the sandalwood tree, which I'll actually show you an image of now. And if we go to stop there, and we go, where's our sandalwood tree? Hang on, didn't we have it earlier on? There we go, a sandalwood tree. There you go, Rog. I'm glad you agree, Rog. Stop butting in, Rog. You're like an old man of 68.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's a pleasure, Roger. I'm glad I made you feel better about yourself. So sandalwood was an important commodity. It was an important export and import around Korea and Japan and China and that type of landscape. So the sandalwood itself is good. The timber was historically valued in China. And it's been historically valued in China for thousands of years, and it's associated with being proper, heavy hardwood for furniture, and all the well-to-do in Chinese society would have had hardwood furniture made of sandalwood, and then what you do find is that sandalwood not only has a wonderful it's great if you grind it down and you actually use it for incense purposes. The medicinal values of it include as an anti-inflammatory, usage for dysentery, usage for hemorrhages, useful for a tonic, Roger, and it's got lots of other uses. So it was very, very valuable. And sandalwood can actually grow in a whole variety of different places within a rich landscape and also a barren landscape that are the countries that are around the Yellow Sea. So, if we actually go on a little bit further, and if I go to my notes again, see, it's Roger. He's just completely thrown me as usual. So I wanted to look at this article I got in front of me. It's entitled "Forgotten Treasures of the Cyan Shipwreck." Now, I've got to ask Roger, have you ever heard of this?
No.
What about you, Pete? You're into your naval stuff. Have you ever heard of it?
Heard of what?
This shipwreck?
No, I haven't. No.
No. So, Forgotten Treasures of the Cyan Shipwreck. So here we go. A large merchant vessel pulled up anchor at Quinyan port, now Ningbo city, in Zhejiang province of the Yan dynasty, sometime around the year 1323. And if you can actually bear with me a moment, I need to get a little bit of a plan up in front of me. So what I need is the Yellow Sea. And I'm going to get a little map up so you can see what I'm talking about. Excellent. I got what I wanted. So, actually, the reason why I the reason why I had actually stored this somewhere else on my computer. So I'm just going to double check. I've got something up here a minute. I'm just going to bear with me just one moment. I just got to type in something a minute. The technologies that we're dealing with. So I'm just going to put Ningbo in here. Ningbo, excellent, good and excellent. So we need to Ningbo, excellent, and Ningbo. Hang on a minute. Ningbo, mark. Just bear with me. And hang on, Ningbo, mark, excellent. Mark, Ningbo, hang on, excellent. Just bear with me a minute. Ningbo, and go. Excellent. Right, got it. Excellent, I got it now. It's all coming together, Ningbo. Right, okay, excellent, I got it. Right, so what I'd like to do now is actually got that. So I'm just going to show you this map, and we're going to show you this map. I just had to do some little corrections there to get an idea where we're talking about. Are you seeing that in the screen? We've got Ningbo, Sanan would be up here, and there's Japan, and this is the Yellow Sea. Can you see this, everybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Now we know where we are. So we've got Ningbo down here. There you've got the other cursor. And so what we'll do, we'll put a couple of little couple of little pointers on you, a couple of little arrows will help. So, got Ningbo, you've got Sanan, and you've got Japan over here. This is Korea. So we're all ready and set. Ningbo, sharp, Rog. Roger's doing my editing. Roger does do my editing occasionally. It's just I do love my Rog. So you go. Start again. A large merchant vessel pulled up anchor at Cyan port, now Ningbo city, as you can see. And Ningbo, Cyan port, now Ningbo city, was part of the Great Yan dynasty of China, which lasted from the year 1271 to 1368. So this ship is disembarking for a long journey in 1323. Is stacked full of all these different items that we've been seeing, and left on a voyage to the port of Hakata, which is now known as Fukuoka in Japan. It was meant to have arrived not so long after, in 1323. The trade ship, estimated originally to be 34 meters long by a width of 11 meters wide, was loaded with Chinese ceramics, wooden lacquerware. Now, if you can remember wooden lacquerware is basically where you find the resin from oak, and you paint the outside of a wooden bowl. That's wooden lacquerware, which we do. When we looked at that, we did that from the Yamon culture in the likes of. It was red oak resin, wasn't it? And we looked at Yamon culture in Japan. So at this moment, wooden lacquerware was big, and obviously you've got the metal craft. So it disembarked with all those coins, and it foundered off the southwest coast of Sanan in South Korea. So basically, let's get back up to where I was on the screen again, and where's my image? There you go, back up on. So what we're talking about is it should have reached Japan. It didn't get there. It got to here. So somehow the journey is going to be probably trading up north all the way down to the south, and for some reason. It took on water and it sank. Now we're not really sure of what happened, but it did sink, and that's what happened. So anyway, so we're still looking at the plan, yeah?
Yeah.
Good. So if we can go back to that. So basically the shipwreck was completely forgotten until a fisherman from Sanan caught several pieces of pottery in his net in 1975. The Celadon was reported to authorities, and the Department of Korean Cultural Properties embarked on a major excavation project in October 1976, unearthing the existence of the Sanan Shipwreck. The discovery was a breakthrough for underwater archaeology in Korea. Over 28 tons of coins, approximately 24,000 cultural properties. So we're talking about, out of that, we got 20,661 pieces of pottery. We got 729 metal objects. We've got stone objects, and we've got over 1,000 pieces of red sandalwood. Yeah. So in forms like this. So there we go. It's not sandalwood, that's a better view, but that's just.
Oh, we've lost you again.
Yeah, sorry, I moved away from a mic. Were found for the shipwrecks in 11 seasons, and are actually still investigating there today. So the National Museum of Korea has actually displayed lots of its artifacts on a regular basis. And what they usually do, they get 1,000 artifacts out and they display it, and people are actually, this is what I felt was very unusual. People are able to see the exhibition based on a lottery. So people's names are pulled out of the hat and they're able to see it. It's just really strange. I thought that was strange, but they often have these exhibitions. So usually out of the 24,000 artifacts, they display 1,000 artifacts at the time. And basically they do show silver ingots, which we'll go on to, scales, so it's obviously a great trading vessel, wooden tags associated with identification of the items on board the vessel. And it's said that when people go to see exhibitions of the pottery and the coins, they're overwhelmed by the quantity of what's on display, and visitors can have a glimpse of the amount of relics found in the ship from the piled coins and layers of ceramics. So again, and if you do ever see the exhibition, it's got, obviously you've got the anchor there as well, and I love this because Korea has done this years before. For example, what we did with the Mary Rose, and it's very likely the way the Mary Rose is actually displayed is very similar to the way this vessel is displayed, but this was put on display before the Mary Rose has been placed on display. It's quite a whopping vessel. That's over 30 meters from prow to aft, isn't it? So basically we've got 34 meters, it's saying. It's quite a chunky vessel with all those artifacts in it, because obviously the image that I showed earlier on, the vessel looked quite small, but it's quite a mega vessel with what we're looking at. So what we do see is that the vessel itself, in regards to what's found on it, the Koreans see a sense of tragedy. And what I'm talking about is, obviously, when they display this, they write poems about the fact that people lost their lives when the vessel went down. The Koreans are very much into trying to recall what the situation was like when, for example, the vessel went down, and it's now referred to as a great treasure ship. So if I can just show you these images, which I'm just about to show you, and then we'll take a break. And I don't know who've got their radio on in the background, because if you can shut it off, that would be very, very useful. So let's just look at these images that we've got. So again, I think that's absolutely amazing, the way they've actually got that displayed. I really, really do. And there you go, showing the a miniature reconstruction of this vessel, and it looks quite a tidy vessel for the day. Actually, it looks the reconstruction looks actually quite impressive. We've got obviously an indication to how many masts there were on board, and the other point to be made that I haven't seen in any of the notes really is going into the depths of how much of the vessel was actually lost and what else could have been on board the vessel. Because remember that this was all the packing boxes were basically sat on the keel. It was all down below the decking. It was all packed in really nicely to sort of give that sense of balance and buoyancy to the vessel. And lots of really little weird objects that they've actually found associated with the vessel as well. Many things. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that just looks too new. It looks so new. It looks so impressive. It looks like the type of thing that you would have from the arts and craft movement from the 1970s. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, actually, where Archaeology Company has actually got a studio, that looks like the type of thing that they used to make using molds in the studio. The sort of very, very, very fine porcelain that they were making in the studio in Barry, and there's nothing really different in the way they're making them and the style and the coloration. So, and again, back to these coins. I'm gonna have to ask. I'm gonna have to go on to questions in a minute, and we'll have to come on after the break. I'm struggling a minute. So obviously, so we've got these coins here. So let's see if we've got any questions. Right. Let's see if we've got any questions. Right, Claire. Let's hear from my Claire. Come on, Claire. We can't hear you, Claire. I muted you, Claire. You can talk, Claire. Come on, Claire.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you. That wonderful Valley's accent.
I think it's very interesting.
It's something very different, isn't it?
Yes.
What I wanted to do today was actually continue the theme of civilization and culture as we've been doing, but
Yes.
in a way to try and sort of do it from one sort of standpoint, one sort of vessel. So we've got a little bit more of what we've been talking about after the break. So what about you, Anne?
I think it's amazing how they did the packing that kept it so, and the amount they could try and pack onto one boat, one ship.
Yeah, exactly.
Trade.
Exactly. We're talking about a 200-ton keeled sailing ship. So this is a hefty vessel.
Yeah.
And it's one. This was found by accident.
Yeah.
So, in the muds of the Yellow Sea by complete accident, and the artifacts coming off it, having packing boxes with the artifacts in them, as we've seen, is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It really, really is. What about you, Margaret Babes?
I just wondered, was the boat built from oak? Do we know?
Hang on a minute. We do have that in my notes. A minute. I do actually have the answer to that. I've just got to the answer is in my notes. You've asked that too soon, actually.
And was it propelled purely by the wind with the sails? I didn't see anywhere where they would have oars.
No, it is basically by sail. Yeah.
And why didn't they pack the goods with paper, seeing as they invented paper?
Paper's too light. Paper's too light. Because paper's too light. The point is, if you had a vessel which was stacked to the gunwales with all these boxes, that the vessel would have been too light, right? So they had to they needed those 28 tons of Chinese coins. Remember, again, I quote that again: 3,989,902 coins.
You'd have thought they would have scratched the porcelain, wouldn't you?
The answer is they were actually in bags because when they were excavated, they actually found concretions of coins. They were actually fused together. These copper coins were actually fused together. They were fused together in sort of fist arrangements like this. So that means that they like the Hollywood films. Somebody, a bag of coins. So, that's what it was.
I'd like to see some of those wooden tags that they used to describe what the contents of the jars were.
What I'm going to do, in the break, I'm going to see if I can get one or two more of those answers to the questions.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that. And there was one missing image earlier on, wasn't there? We did the map, and I said this image is missing. I can't remember what it was now. Oh, don't worry, I'll find it. Don't worry, I'll see if I can work that out. Right, Pete.
Well, all I really noticed was the the handles of all those, they were such a similar design. At first looked as if it was actually a seahorse.
Yes, I thought that.
Yes.
And there's so many different articles had a similar design handle.
Yeah, I agree. Lots of it. It's all from around. It's all from around the same period, and it's sort of that's what was in vogue at the time. So yeah. So Drina.
I was wondering whether the coins had any monetary value, as opposed to being just the weight.
Now that's what's discussed. It was thought that it was the coins themselves are about, most of them are usually about 15 years old before they're used for packing, right? So none of the coins date to after 1310. Now the vessel went down in 1323, but when you think about the whole thing about the coins, is that the coins themselves could be used for purchasing as well. So somebody could say, well, we want all these wonderful vessels with the seahorse handles, and we want all these vases, and we want these incense burners, and so on. We want all these wonderful things. And then you're saying, well, we've actually got these coins to trade as well. So, if they're not prepared to give, what you don't want is to go back with bagfuls of money. You want to go with trade items. So you're gonna basically, there's a crate here is packed with coins, even if the value of the items inside isn't the value of what we want to buy, because the coins are in there. It gives an extra value to the artifacts. Yeah.
Would the coins not only be used in China?
Remember, this is a trade zone between Japan, China, and Korea. So this is, and basically, because these are produced by a very powerful Chinese empire, these coins would be recognized.
Okay.
It's basically like the silver doubloon of the 1700s. Everyone traded in it. Basically, I can remember I can remember I used to have banknotes from 1770 odd, American banknotes, and those banknotes said valued to the Spanish gold dollar. And this was American independent banknotes. So it was valued to the money of the time, like the doubloon, right? The doubloon was the value across the whole world. Now, back in 1320 odd, the value was these coins that had been issued by this great Chinese empire. That's where the value is. Right. So, anything you would like to say, Roger? No. Okay. Jess?
No, thank you.
Bloody hell. Jess has got a rough voice.
I think it's annoyed me a little bit. I think it's good what you've done. I think the article that you showed us where they said that brass, they said it was a brass bottle. It's obviously being found with the sandalwood as well. It was obviously incense. I've got sandalwood with me, and I do have an incense burner that looks similar to that, where it has holes and it seeps through. So it's obvious.
Yes, and obviously, yeah. This is to be honest with you, right? To be honest with you, I was having I was feeling quite ill this morning. I was feeling I was writing the Roman book as well, and I was just shouting at the computer screen and saying, "This is not a temporary Roman fort, and this is this and this." And somebody phoned me up, and they phoned me up from the local council. They said, "Are you aware of the COVID regulations that you can't actually have ghost walks?" And I'm saying, "Yes, we can. On the 26th, restrictions will be listed." And I got so angry with the man, right? And it's a similar type of thing you're talking about, Jessica. People get things wrong in books, and it gets you so angry. So,
is there any indication what caused the ship to sink?
No, nothing at all. There's no indication at all. There's nothing in my notes telling me at all what caused the vessel to sink.
We don't think it could have been a storm, because a storm may well have broken some of the cases up and damaged some of the pottery. So as it hasn't been damaged, then it sank in a relatively calm disposition for some reason.
For some reason, yes. For some reason. Now we don't know what that reason is, but there's no sign that the vessel was set alight, because that would have caught the boxes.
Well, yeah.
There would be fusing on the pottery. The pottery would be damaged anyway because of the heat. There's no damage to the keel. It might have been overladen.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
More than likely.
Because this is what happened to the Mary Rose. The Mary Rose turned to fire in battle, and water poured in, and the thing capsized. But the Mary Rose capsized, didn't it? But this obviously didn't.
No, the Mary Rose heeled over, and the lower gun ports were open, and
that's
it took
right.
the water and just sank.
But it didn't completely capsize. It keeled over, didn't it? It didn't.
Yeah.
This is why. Down. Yeah, this is that's an interesting thing, because when you look at what survives of the vessel, right? It's only more or less half of it that survived.
Yeah.
So that would mean that it's settled, not level. It's settled at an angle. So that would be the same evidence that we're looking at in regards to the Mary Rose.
It's also got all the heavy stuff in the bottom, which would be the right way to pack it. So yes. I would suggest that it was heavily laden, and therefore probably had a low freeboard, and may well have just got swamped, and it wouldn't necessarily need much of a sea to do that.
That sounds about right.
It's not uncommon.
It's a tsunami area as well.
Well, it is. You're right.
It may have been a coastal hugger as well. It may have been able to go out into the Yellow Sea, right? It may have gone out into the Yellow Sea in calm water, but then it hugged to the coast, and it may have just gone out into too deeper waters too soon, without offloading some of its ballast in the form of artifacts, and then maybe it was somebody who was a bit too greedy.
And if it is one that hugs the coast, as soon as you start to go around the peninsula, you get into choppy waters as well.
Yes.
So.
And this is where it went down at Sanan. It went down
on
a peninsula. Yes, on a peninsula. Exactly. That's where it went down. It could have just been. With being a captain of a vessel, all it needs is a captain who's just slightly inexperienced, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just somebody who just got that little bit of less knowledge. It's like share dealing, isn't it? So you can get.
Could have had deck cargo that shifted and just tipped it over as well.
And we don't know what that cargo is, because we don't have that part of the vessel either. So
I was on a ship. We had a deck cargo of Sparta grass from North Africa, and coming across the Bay of Biscay, the waves were wetting the Sparta grass on the deck cargo on the one side of the ship, causing us to list.
Yeah.
And at 3 o'clock in the morning, we had to cut some of these bales away and chuck them overboard.
Explain what that is, Sparta glass. I've never heard of it before. What is it?
For the paper mills, at least, is what they make paper with.
Ah, okay. Right, okay.
Also, what's clogging up all our estuaries now as a result of it?
Basically a bit like flax, in other words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
We picked it up in the zoo and took it to Leith, to the paper mills.
We have it up on the estuary here. Every now and again, they come and pull it all out and try to keep it under control.
I can imagine.
It takes over. It grows very quickly.
Is that where Claire comes in with a sort of a gear, and she rips it out?
Oh yeah.
I wish she would.
I tell you what. Look, me and Andy can get turned on by Claire, but you can't. It's just unacceptable. Right. Okay. So I'll just remind you again. One last time. Everybody's. I think a couple of your monies are now due, right? So I'm hoping I want to drag Pete to say something, but he's not. All your monies are now due for the next 2 months. 48 quid. Get it sorted. Job done.
You've said money about 40 times.
Yes. But I've dragged that out, Pete, to make you. So therefore, that's an own goal to you. thanks. Oh, by the way, Pete's got some news about Sandra. What's the latest on Sandra, Pete?
She's not very well. She's actually got swollen legs and things, and she's
not
not
thrombosis or
well
anything.
at all.
Right, okay.
Poor lass.
Yeah.
Poor lass.
Give her our best.
Yeah.
Yes, it will do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Well,
I rang her on the weekend and said, well, how do you feel? We'd like you to come on Tuesday. And she said, no, I'm not well at all. She said, my legs are swollen. I don't feel well.
Tell her that we're missing her.
But I am missing her. I'm missing her ditties. Tell her that if she doesn't come back next week, we'll have to replace her with John.
Oh.
My God.
Hey, what was that, Margaret?
That'll be the end of it.
Right. So okay then. Right. So we're having a couple of. Well, actually, that was quite a long discussion then, which was great. So we're gonna have a 10-minute break. Roger, what are you doing? Are you staying with us, Roger? Are you going?
I've got to get my bus at 9:09.
Answer the bloody question, you nincompoop. And by the way, next week we're
I'll
doing.
get my bus at 9. I told you.
All right then. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
I won't be here next week.
Oh.
What? You can't get a bus?
I won't be here next week. I've got other business.
What, do you want to tell us again, Rod? You can't be here next week, is it?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Next week we're looking at the mammoth circles of the Ukraine.
Ooh.
Oh.
The mammoth turtles
Circle.
of the Ukraine.
No, circles.
So he said
Circle. Come on, Margaret. Oh.
turtles.
Circle.
Ukraine.
Oh my God.
I think turtles would have been more interesting.
Oh, thanks a lot. I really, yeah. Right, I'm having a break. You've insulted me enough, and basically, is this sounding louder?
Oh.
Is this okay? What? How does this sound?
No, it's quieter.
What about that? Does that sound loud?
Wow, yeah.
Hello, is everyone hearing me? Is that good? Achtung, what is das? Oh, I've always wanted to do this. Germany calling, Germany calling. This is Lord Haw here. Germany calling. Right, anyway, that takes Peter back. It really does.
And this is the Gaumont British News, bringing the world to the world.
Yeah.
From Luxembourg. Right, okay.
Lord, ha.
Yeah, the thing is, I've had this conversation with people many times. I don't think he should have been executed, because if you look at Albert Speer, right, he wasn't executed, and I'm just thinking,
too useful.
yeah. Anyway,
Too useful, I think.
shut up, Roger. Right, we'll be back in 6 minutes. So go and get your tea, quick.
Was Haw his real name?
William Joyce was his real name.
Why did they call him Haw?
Because everyone used to laugh when they used to hear him. He would be saying in April, right? He'd be saying, "We are going to win the war," and it would just be, people would be like, "We will win the war. The bombers will be over," and I think he was still broadcasting on the 8th of May, and it was just he went over to the Flensburg government, which was that pseudo-Nazi government with Donitz as head until the 21st of April, I think it was. So I think he kept doing broadcast there as well, but he was eventually captured. So
they caught him wandering through a wood, didn't they?
Yeah, wandering through the wood. Well, you shouldn't do that around the valleys, wandering through woods. You're usually followed by people. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh. Yeah, no. Basically, he was of Irish descent, from America or somewhere like that, and he ended up working for the Germans.
Yeah, he got done for treason, didn't he? So,
yeah.
That's why he got executed.
Yeah.
That's because it was treason.
Treason was a death penalty.
Yeah, but it was entertaining, boys. Now come on. Right, we're gonna have a break. I want my break.
Is he better than Tokyo Rose?
Shut up, you! I'm go away. So what I've done is I've clunked all the images together, whatever I'd missed out, and I know we've already seen this, but it's an amazing scene. I've got a nice little article as well. It's really concise. It sort of rounds up everything that we want to say about this. We've got as many images as I can that I've got in front of us. And again, this sort of Ningbo, and we've got again that point that Andy made about being on a peninsula. That's so true, and obviously over to the likes of this coastline here that is being shown on Japan, where they're actually trading. So to sort of get an idea what we've been talking about, and the other thing as well, I've remembered as well. I haven't done the text from the book either, which I need to do. Stay there, hang on. We've got to do the text from the book actually. So I might actually images. So the items that we're actually looking in the background, is everything still clear out as well, guys? Yeah.
There's a bit of interference, so you're plugged in properly.
And a bit of crackling, yeah.
What about this now, Detlevs?
That's okay right now.
That's because I was playing with my thingy.
Oh. Put it away.
my mum said not to play with it as well because you'll go blind.
Right.
Or deaf. I can't remember what it was. Blind, deaf, all these different things. So again, what I was going to say is all these objects here. We move away from the Celadon and porcelain. These are all the storage. These are for cinnamon and so on. We mentioned earlier on that, and when you think about it, they're trading in spices and various other goods as well. So it's not just the pottery that they're trading in. So there's a lot of trade stuff going on. So we mentioned again this porcelain triangle of southeast China to Japan, where Chinese celadon and porcelain were in great demand. Ningbo was the port nearest to both the large kilns associated with the landscape. So they had two large kilns. They had the green glazed celadon, which we've already seen extensively, and there was the white glazed porcelain. So you've got the green glazed celadon, which is your stoneware, and your white glazed porcelain. Now, having stoneware back then, stoneware is that really fine type of, when we used to have those sort of stoneware jam jars from when we were children. That's what we're talking about. Really, really hefty things. More than a third of the Sanan cargo consisted of potteries from the area that the vessel originally set out from. Flower vases with the handles that we've mentioned, they're molded, various symmetrical designs, and what we've got is various cast bronze artifacts as well. So we've got these various celadons themselves in a variety of different shapes. We've got cups, simple bowls, molded vessels. All of these are molded, and the artifacts that they actually found on the vessel, there's something very surprising about the artifacts found on the vessel. I'm building this up. I've mentioned it. I've given an indication about from the coins, right? Not a single one of the coins on the vessel dated so the vessel went down in 1323. None of the coins were later than 1310. So the coins were 13 years old when they were placed as ballast. That's a clue to this next point. This next point is as follows: the ceramics date from the 1000s. So some of the ceramics are collector's items when they're placed on the vessel. So that would make an archaeologist's life a nightmare. So some of the objects were hundreds of years old before they were packed on the vessel. Now that I find very, very interesting, And the reason why it's an archaeologist's nightmare is that when we date vessels, date archaeological sites, we always go with the date of the archaeology that we find. So because the archaeology predates the vessel or whatever it is by hundreds of years, that's an archaeological nightmare. So together with other Chinese trade objects that we've mentioned, we'll go on a bigger list before the end today. What you've got, it seems to go into, it seems to go further into Korea, all the way further maybe towards Seoul, and it collects various other goods. And they've got that, though. What they've also got is, not only do you have that red sandalwood, you've also got Japanese lacquer wares on board before it actually goes to Japan. Now that's an unusual thing as well. They've already got Japanese lacquer wares on board. Now they're saying they were already on the way to Japan, but those Japanese lacquer wares may have actually got on board by trade with other regions of Korea. And an interesting thing is the reason why we did this little bit of research with red sandalwood, because they found a number of wooden sandals on board the vessel as well. But there's no link between the sandalwood and the wooden sandals. That's not why sandals are called sandals, because of sandalwood. We worked that one out. Yeah, it's not a joke. This is the research we do. So what we do believe that they entered a Korean port to take on additional cargo and they were bound for Japan. So whatever these Japanese lacquerwares were doing on board, it was because they were trading with people in Korea. How is the sound sounding now?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Good. I got. Oh God. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm glad I've pleased you for once. Right. So also on board the vessel, this is the comparison, right? Hopefully we can do a tiny little bit more of this before we end. There's a little comparison with the Mary Rose. Not only did they find trade objects, they found objects of local basketry, obviously to store items on board the vessel for them to survive and eat. They found various cooking utensils and iron and bronze cauldrons. So this, not for trade, because they had to feed themselves on board. They found obviously various tools. We've mentioned the peppercorns, but there was evidence of peaches on board, cinnamon bark as well, various other things like that. We've got various metal wares, bronze ritual vessels, and various incense burners. In fact, what we've got, I don't know if we've got it in my collection, but we've got tripod incense burners as well. Now, if we want to move on, just sort of looking at some of these images, it would be good if we sort of moved on with these images. So we've got the sandalwood there. These are the utensils with the peppercorns for use on board the vessel and also for trade. And this is rather interesting. This was something that I picked up as well. The shipwreck located in the southwestern marine area of the Korean Peninsula is one of the most significant ancient shipwrecks in East Asian seas. Several hypotheses have been proposed about the port of departure, although insufficient archaeological research has been carried out on this matter. So obviously we do believe that we've got Ningbo. We do believe that could have been Ningbo, but they've been researching more into the artifacts than actually its journey. So this is why we were unable to answer really what happened. Really what happened. And even as a little bit of texture, it talks about the pottery kilns, and even this little bit of this text about the ceramic cargo. This inspires us to reevaluate the importance of Ningbo to the marine trade to the East Asian seas. And what we're talking about is that there's lots of areas where we're finding pottery actually come on board the vessel, which is being moved around and traded with. Again, this is absolutely amazing. Looking at something like this, and they do look like seahorse handles, and this does not. When I opened the book and I started looking at this, none of this stuff to me looked like it was any more than a few decades old, but these are hundreds of years old indeed. So what we're going to do, we're going to come back to that in a moment, right? What I want to do is go back to these coins. You see all these images. There are lots more that I wanted to go through. Back to these coins, right? I'm actually getting a lot of feedback in my ears. So Roger, can you cut your mic, please?
I'm off. I'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, you're off, are you now, Rog? Roger, okay. We'll see you tomorrow, Rog.
Yeah.
Ciao, Rog.
Bye, Rog.
Bye, Rog.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Right, anyway, cracking on. So the tons of coins... Oh, my ears are not beeping now. The tons of coins, remember there's 28 tons of coins being found on this vessel. Again, 28 tons, nearly 4 million coins. Now, I said that this is one of the biggest coin hoards ever found. It's not the most valuablest of coin hoards. We've got coin hoards worth tens of millions of pounds, but this is the most numerous of coins, right?
They look like a base metal and not very valuable.
They don't look valuable, but they would have been valuable enough in numbers. The coins, the tons of coins dating to no later than 1310 are an enigma, but we're answering that. Each packing box, each packing box. It's not an enigma at all. It's for ballast. Each packing box of ceramics contained a few coins for good luck, but many were wrapped in bundles. A few coins for good luck, and there's hundreds in a bundle. I don't think so. These are for packing. And were they being used partly as ballast? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. On the journey to be utilised later for their purchasing power in order to bring back many more goods than the ceramics alone could be traded. That's a good idea. But it's also practical. This is what we're talking about. Nobody goes to sea and they're unpractical. Everything, as Pete will tell you, and Andy, everything out at sea is calculated. You don't go to sea without calculating everything. The coins themselves, would this mean that this was a short load of ceramics, or did the captain expect heavy weather which even a full load of ceramics could not overcome? So that this is what we're saying. We need these coins. They're needed for ballast. That's what we're saying. And if we're going to go back on my images now. So though the Sanan ship itself succumbed to natural forces, that's what it's saying in my notes, an excavation was a triumph over basically when they were excavating the vessel, and they're still researching it today. There's a 2.5 knot current and zero visibility as they were excavating. Only 1 hour of diving could be accomplished every day. 1 hour diving in basically zero visibility, while the tide stood still. The diving team were composed of experts from around the world, actually, from Australia, United States, Korea, and so on. And they would lay out a grid, and the hull was cut into sections for lifting. Right, so here we go. This is a nice little plan, and there it is. That's a nice. I got that for you in the break. And it was lifted in section, right? It was all recorded. It was cut and lifted in section. It is described as a flat-hulled vessel with a keel shaped from 3 long timbers. And I think that gives it away in the plan. And the body was divided into 7 or 8 compartments by internal bulwarks. This is also creating these bulwarks on board a vessel. Is if one of these bulwarks fills with water, it will be counterbalanced by another bulwark. It's so that the whole vessel isn't flooded at one moment. This was the idea with the Titanic, but you know what went wrong there. Only the portion below the waterline survives with no upper floors intact, no timber from the upper floor. The cargo is known to have been in a lower hold, so obviously that's going to the ballast bit and the stability. However, because some of the lighter objects which might otherwise have floated away were in fact held in place by an upper deck until they became waterlogged and silted over. So it's likely that the upper deck itself may have actually been of a softwood, as a very much softer wood, and that would have just rotted away. So again, back to this, a reconstruction of the Sanan hole showing the keel structure and internal compartments of this vessel, Chinese trade ship wrecked off the southwestern Korean coast, just off that peninsula.
Carl, the deck had been teak. Probably the rest of the hull was teak as well.
Teak does actually float very well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's very waterproof as well. It's a good wood.
Yeah, and very long lasting.
Yes.
I had a greenhouse of teak.
You've got a greenhouse of teak?
I had a greenhouse of teak, yes.
Now you know where the top of it went.
What did
Well, go for it.
To treat the wood with, you know, these days we use varnishes and oils. Did they use an oil?
Yes, as far as I know, they used an oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're going to be down in Arabia, you're going to be able to pitch it because you've got access to natural crude oil down there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So it's obviously whatever's available. So these are some of the celadons from the
bark. Is the liquid you get from boiling bark is an extremely good preservative.
All right.
And boiling human beings like John. Such green glazed stoneware was a popular export item, as you can see in front of you. So again, I'm looking at these, and I'm sure my parents used to have a place set like this.
Mm.
I know where they got it from. Now, mind you, we are Barry people, and it's the type of thing that we might purloin. My dad used to be good at borrowing things from museums.
Well, you said you were Diddy guys.
Shut up.
Isn't it interesting that it's green, the same as it is in the Western and in the Western sort of hemisphere in that early medieval period?
Obviously the ham green wares, yes, from Bristol, yeah. So archaeologists, there's a few really interesting points that I actually want to look at here now. So there's some phenomenal things I want to read out to you now. I'm just going to change my screen a minute. There's some phenomenal things. Right. Oh, that's what I'm going to. So basically, there you have it. There it was. You know, it's something really special, right? It really is. Teapots. Why not? Archaeologists in the Republic. Listen, this is really, I love this. Archaeologists in the Republic of Korea had no previous underwater experience of doing this type of work at all in 1975 when it was originally found by fishermen. And in 1976 they did it. Now I think that's amazing. Mind you, we didn't have much experience. We were that's really unfair actually, because even in 1982 we were struggling to be able to work out how to lift the Mary Rose. You know, so I think to be fair to the Koreans, they were really groundbreakers, you know. Extreme tides create highly dangerous currents at this site, and visibility is practically nil, it says. We've already done that. Hence, the excavation was an arduous undertaking. Aluminium grid frames were installed directly over the sunken ship. These were in 2-meter squares to guide exploration square by square. So in other words, it's so low light down there that you know they needed a framework to guide them to where they were excavating. So the first excavation being carried out in 1976. As I said, we've got various seasons. Now, use some more precise information on the types of pottery. Okay, so we've got 8,838 of those green pieces that we've shown that we're looking at, pieces of celadon. 8,838. That's why we've got so much of this stuff on display. Massive. So we've got. Hang on, I'm going to change my image again. And
Carl, that interference is probably coming from your mobile phone if it's near the mic.
now. You got a tiny bit of interference there, have you? Okay. What about that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Sorted. Right, where are we now? Right. Okay. So that's from the exhibition catalogue. Is it me, or does that look like a box of tat from the Antiques Roadshow? It does. It does. It really does. It does. Right. So back those. So those.
Pondy Market, wasn't it?
No, Barry Market. Right. So the green pieces of the celadon in that box, and then the white porcelain that you can see. So there's 8,838 pieces of celadon. Now I'm gonna guess that there probably was double when the ship went down, right? I'm gonna guess there was double. So you've got 4,585 white porcelain objects, which is also in that box, and also 341 pieces of blackware. So the blackware itself is what's being used for storage, that the trading of other goods, right? And you've got other earthenwares, other stonewares. Again, stonewares, that concept of stonewares in medieval England is an anathema. We didn't have it. So they recorded this. It's been done very, very well. Tons of timber, more than 200 mahogany logs up to 2 meters long have been removed from the wreck. So what did we say it was made of? This is made of mahogany.
The mahogany logs were probably being traded for because it was extremely valuable for the manufacture of furniture, etc., wasn't it?
Exactly. So it's saying tons of timber, more than 200 mahogany logs up to 2 meters long. So is that... No, that's not what the vessel's made up of, is it? It's actually what they're trading. Right, trading. Sorry, mistake there. Sorry, mistake. I haven't actually read through this. That's the mistake, sorry. So the presence of this cargo, as well as the other materials of both Chinese and Southeast Asian origin, indicate that the ship had sailed at least as far as central China and even to Southeast Asia. It was returning with its valuable merchandise to trade in Japan and Korea when it was probably shipwrecked. It's saying in a storm. Now, we've already discounted that. Among the artifacts so far discovered, porcelain predominate. And we've got the celadons, it's all there. We've actually got we've actually got so much being said here about the various uses of the stonewares and various cooking utensils. So one thing that I haven't mentioned anything about is among the metal objects are bronze, silver, lead, and iron vessels. Although these are few in number compared with the thousands of pots, but there's quite a few metal objects, to be honest with you. There's 729 metal objects. You find out on an average British site, you got your work cut out for decades. So you've got 729 metal objects, and in amongst this as well, there are also bottles, mirrors, incense burners. There are lampstands, saucers, dishes, trays, dippers, cauldrons, pots, drums, drum hammers, shovels, statues of Lloyd George, locks, kettles, candle stands, knife handles, pin sets, bowls, bells, miscellaneous of other kitchen utensils. So we've got a hell of a lot of stuff there. Utensils in particular require prompt conservation work, and as soon as they are taken out the water, they are treated directly at the site and then taken for conservation. So this stuff was an ongoing thing. The stone objects consisted of inkstones of various types, whetstones, millstones, bowls. Wooden artifacts are scanty, but we do have some wooden artifacts. Not, for example, we're talking about the red sandalwood or the mahogany. We're talking about the other wooden objects. So we've got some of the wooden fragments have been identified. So you've got that association with the lacquer works, and the wooden containers comprise square, oblong, or cylindrical boxes where the artifacts were in. It's amazing. Several of which were found completely intact, as we've already seen. And that little piece comes to an end there. So we've got lots of the what we're seeing is unbelievably in a wonderful state of preservation on board that vessel.
That article in the middle of that box, that's a strange looking piece of equipment, isn't it?
Yeah, that is very strange. Yeah. And
what do you think it can be used for?
Oil.
Well, that looks like I would go with oil. It's too it's too narrow. It's too narrow at the neck to actually get tea leaves in there. So if you think about, one of the things, Pete, you're gonna love this. Only you will understand this, Pete. Right? Can you remember that Chinese restaurant in Broad Street in Barry?
Yeah.
Well, I did a big review in the Barry Gem, and I said how wonderful it was. Right? Anyway, I used to go into that restaurant with certain female friends, and it was usually a different one every time I went in there. Anyway, I went into there this one day, and the manager ran over. He said, "Mr. Langford, I'm so pleased to have you here." So he dragged me and this woman I was with into another part of the restaurant, and the food and everything was completely free, right? And he said, "Oh, Mr. Langford, we got to keep you away from people because you are famous." And then the amazing thing is that I was actually having some acting photographs taken at the time, so we had to put it in a frame and we had to put it on the wall. And every time I'd go in there, he would go around everybody around the table, say, "This man is famous, picture on the wall, he's signed." And anyway, the reason why I mentioned that is that the teapots that we used to have really wide necks because he used to do green tea for us. I used to have green tea. So I was the man to know back then, Gina. You could have gone to this place with me. Embarrassingly enough, I was in the Chinese restaurant once and I forgot my credit card. The woman I was with had to pay, and it was Valentine's Day. Right. She wasn't impressed.
Hey, Valentine's for both sides, it's not just one-sided.
Exactly. I think that's true. That's good. Anyway, so where are we with these images now? So what we've done these. We've done that. We've obviously done the wonderful red sandalwood, and again, this looks huge. It really looks big. Yeah, it really looks big. Well, you can tell that from the artifacts underneath. I think that the inspiration from the Mary Rose exhibition has actually come from here. It really has, because this is what you get with the Mary Rose exhibition. You walk around it and you've got all the artifacts everywhere, and I think this is where they've got that from. So the Koreans were groundbreakers. They were decades before their time. And again, I think that's great. That is absolutely amazing. And they've got so many artifacts that there's just rows and rows and rows of them. I was saying to Mike this morning, I was saying, wouldn't they be worried about having a bloody earthquake or something? Because it would all go, wouldn't it? And you're just thinking, I don't think like that, And again, that reconstruction that we've seen earlier on about the trade links and everything, and we've seen that, and row again. It's just like I can't. It's like, actually, right? How many of you have been to IKEA? That looks like IKEA. It does, doesn't it? It really does. It really does look like IKEA. And again, it's just it's like it's almost as if, not almost as if, the Koreans are so proud of this, and you can see it. They're just, you've got those two women there, and they're looking and they're thinking, this is amazing. We've got all these artifacts in front of us. Oh, did I actually tell you about the chess set that they actually found
on the ship?
Yeah, they found. Yeah. Where's that thing about the chess set? Yeah, they actually. I didn't tell you that. They actually found a chess set on board.
Made of ivory.
Made in that. It was mentioned on that little bit of text that you had up originally before.
Japanese chess set, they said it was.
Yeah, a Japanese chess set. Yeah, one of the oldest chess sets ever found. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you two were reading it because I missed it. Yeah. So yeah, they actually found a Japanese chess set. And,
you haven't got a picture of it, have you?
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to dare myself. Sanan Japanese chest. I put chess. Oh God, put chest in there. I come up with something else. Sanan Japanese chess set. No, I'm not getting it. No, you're not. No, yes. Actually, Andy, that's your homework. Andy, that's your homework for next week. Japanese chess set.
Okay.
This is your white porcelain, as we were saying, and again, this is not the celadon, but the porcelain itself, and obviously back to our coins, and this is where we started, and this is where we'll end. So what I'm going to do is precisely 9:30, which is a great point to stop. So, are there any questions, folks?
No.
The tree you showed.
Yes.
Sandalwood.
Yes.
Sandhill is part of its Latin name.
I've got. I'll show you this, Pete. If this is tying in with what you just said, I've got. I've got a
picture. We show the photograph of the tree.
Right. Okay. Here we go. Here we go, Andy. There. This is the Wikipedia entry.
Yeah. See.
Santallinus. Santallinus. Santal. Yes.
Yeah.
But nothing to do.
Sandal.
Yeah. Well, it's got sandal here, but santal. Yeah, you're right. The T's become a D. Yeah. But it's nothing to do with sandals. We've already done our research on that.
Aerocarpus.
Stop showing off. There we did. We did our research. It's nothing to do with sandals.
Yep, that's it.
Where would the mahogany have come from that they were trading with?
Mahogany. That's going to come from Thailand, isn't it?
I thought it was from Africa.
Is there mahogany?
There's a lot of different varieties.
Yes.
Yeah. The one
it's like
was from Africa, but you get it
in South, like we said, South America and Africa.
Yeah.
So what?
And Thailand, like you said, in
Thailand,
Borneo.
is it?
Yeah.
Because actually, the sandalwood itself, they've got to be careful because there's different types of sandalwood, because the sandalwood that you get with incense and stuff now actually comes from India.
All right.
So
Sorry, Carl, I have to leave.
Have you got to leave, lovely?
Yes.
Do you know what? Claire,
Claire,
it's so good having you with us, Claire. Claire, I'll see you next week, darling. Bye.
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 Keep smiling. She'll get us some freebies in Morrison's one day. Hey, do you know what? Right, Jessica, should we share a little secret, me and you, right? Can you remember when we used to have it at Asda, and we all used to come in with the reduced stuff, and we used to have a table full of food? Remember that?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I used to do the classes.
Oh, you didn't get out the bins behind Iceland like you did before, then.
Hang on a minute. Those were the special treats I used to take in before we got reduced stuff, right? Don't ever let Jessica think that she had stuff out the bins in Iceland, okay? Because she'll get very upset with me.
Gotta get it from where you can.
Hey, Margaret, that's really cheap of you. Getting it from where you can.
Hunt together, mate.
God.
I noticed on that cargo there were no dinner plates, so they must have had a rice-based diet way back then.
Yeah, the rice was massive. Yeah, rice. We're talking about rice itself is big in Japan 1,000 years BC. We got rice in for example, in China, that's massive as well. So
it's staple carbohydrate, isn't it?
Yeah. So
were there any chopsticks in there as well?
there was a Mr. Suey. Do you get the joke? Oh, forget it. Right. So do you know Anne? Is she? I love the red top that she's wearing today.
All right, thank you. I like it. I wear it most of the time.
Yes, I've got my purple one on.
No, I hadn't got my red.
Oh, that's a different red.
This is a different one, yeah. This is another.
No, I'm loyal to the cause.
I hung it up nicely. I wore it last week.
Right, that's enough, girls. Good.
I almost wore mine downtown, but I thought I might get recognised as something else.
Oh, but by the way, Pete, right? There's a certain Cornish slate being mentioned in my latest article in the Baron
Has
District.
it indeed? Right.
But this is to do with St. Barrack's Chapel.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
When are you going to pick up these articles?
I thought Rosamond's already been over.
Well, she came and picked up the books. Well, these are the pages out of the Barry District of your articles.
Ah, right. Okay. I'll have to collect that. I'll have to collect that soon.
The latest one.
Oh, look at that. You know, I can't always be famous.
Are you mentioned on there?
What, Peter?
No, you.
No, it's fine. No.
I'd like the column for the newspaper, you bloody numpty. Oh, for God's sake.
KARL-JAMES Langford. Bit. Archaeology Cymru. It's on there. It's all there down the bottom.
It's all there down the bottom. Oh my God! I tell you what, right? You guys are slow tonight. Flippin' heck.
Wow. Very good. And
should get it in the Gazette, Carl.
What? The Barry Castle in the Gazette?
Yeah, they wouldn't notice. They're taking everything from anywhere else these days.
That's true. Guess what? Mike said this morning. He said, "I bet that bit of yew wood's from a yew tree." I had to write it down. It's there. I just said, "You what?" Oh yeah, I just realised what I said. Talk about bloody numpties.
Great perception.
Talk about numpties. I tell you what. Talk about numpties, David.
Yes. No. I've got no questions. Thank you.
Drina, you're not a numpty. You're just
a lady.
A lady. No, matron, shut your face. Right, go on then. Nothing from you, Dreen?
No, thank you.
Right, I've done Pete the Meat. Right, have you on Pete's letters now? The database Peter's under B. Pete the Butcher. And yeah. What about you, Andy? Anything from you, darling, before we finish?
No, it's good. Thanks. Interesting.
Right. Okay. And Jess, I'll have a word with you afterwards. You know, you've got to stay back behind. So, Jess.
No, I thought that was good. Very interesting. Thank you.
1 week she's going to say that's friggin' terrible, and I'll clap. Right. So, okay. So, again, this has been. God, I've managed to do this tonight. That's great. I don't know. I've been. It's been coming and going like waves. So yes. So. That's good. If there's no more questions, and
there was one thing I noticed which I found fascinating. When all the dishes were packed.
Oh right, yeah, go on.
They're made from moulds. They must be almost. They look like factory produced.
They are.
You know,
they are.
Yeah, they look really so modern. You can believe it.
Everything is so modern. They are factory produced.
Yeah.
But I gotta be honest with you, right? It says discoveries from the Sanan Shipwreck, right? This is from their own catalogue.
Yeah.
Right. And you're just thinking, I've got to be honest with you, right? If that was in a car boot sale, Yeah, what, Pete, can you remember when they first started doing car boot sales back in about the 1986 or something in Barry, right? You used to get car boot sales with boxes with this type of stuff in them, right? And you wouldn't have even given them a first look. You really wouldn't.
No.
But
it's really amazing.
I wonder if they say made in China on the bottom.
Oh, shut up! No, they say what they say PRC, don't they? People's Republic of China.
Ah.
Or in Pete's case, People's Republic of Kazakhstan.
They do normally say things on the bottom of them, the Chinese.
But then it wasn't the
Yeah,
People's
they do.
Republic of China, was it?
No.
No.
No, but they usually have a signature on the bottom of them.
Marks on the bottom of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably do. Oh, for God's sake, let's get one last look at that friggin' image, and then we'll call it a day. Right? Okay. Let's see if there's any marks on the bottom of the. No, those marks.
Made in Birmingham.
Those marks on the bottom are probably basically the separators that they have these on in the kiln. So there's no mark, and that's basically a plate, right?
I haven't washed it.
It hasn't been washed, have it?
Still got tomato ketchup on.
It's friggin' hanging. Right. So on that note, folks, right? On that note. I tell you what, one problem that we've got is that this morning I had another 30 articles of the week sent through to me, right? So I've got a big stack there now. We've got a scanner that we put them through, and then we get rid of the articles, and we've got the things on the database. And I'm just thinking, how do I go around putting a database together for these tens of thousands of articles? Because nobody's doing it, but we've got this database. Because what you do, and it's just all these different wonderful things out there to tax us. But you'll be getting your newsletters, and basically, right, next week, right, you've got to get Margaret's signature because she's done a piece in the newsletter. So I basically, it says Margaret, the reporter.
You're not ramblings from Margaret again, are you?
Yeah, and basically to spice it up a bit, it's that beach photograph that nobody's supposed to see of you. Okay, on that note, I'll see you tomorrow, David. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody now. If nobody's got anything else to say, thank you very much for being brilliant. I will see you all next week. David, see you tomorrow, and see you next week, and Margaret next week, Drina, Andy next week, Peter next week, and I'm just going to talk to Jessica about the cricket.
Thank you.
I was bowled over.
Time to go.
Bye.
Yep.
Take care, Andy. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Carl.
See you, Andy. Bye. My pleasure.
Bye.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Bye.
See you, Peter, mate. Right. Okay. Right. So we'll cut that now.
Whew. Have a breathe. You done well tonight.